Okay, for this video, I'll be discussing felony, its classification, and stages of commission. So let's start. So felonies are acts or omission punishable by the revised penal code or the RPC. Okay, so again, no, actually felony is only found in RPC. Okay, it could be an act, you committed an act, or you omit in committing an act, then the act or the omission is punishable by RPC, it is felonies. Okay? But in RA 9344, or the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act, felonies is considered as an offense. Bakit? Ang definition doon sa offense is refers to any act or omission punishable under special law or revised penal code. But again, if the crime is punishable by RPC, it should be felony. Okay? Pag special law, it should be offense. Now, under RPC, Article 3, felonies are committed not only by means of deceit, another name for deceit is dolo, but also by means of fault or culpa. So take note of these synonymous terms, no? Deceit, dolo. Fault, culpa. Okay. Now, there is deceit when the act is performed with deliberate intent. So deceit means deliberate intent. Yun lang yan, no? May intention, intentional. Okay? And there is fault or culpa when the wrongful act results from imprudence, negligence, lack of foresight, or lack of skills. So yan yung sinasabi ng culpa or fault. Now, classification of felony, well, again, no, dalawa lang yun. Intentional felonies, ito yung natawag ng dolo. And culpable felonies, ito yung natawag ng culpa. Now, ano ang requisite ng dolo or malice? Okay? One, he must have freedom while doing an act or omitting to do an act. He must have intelligence while doing an act or committing to do an act. And most important is there must be an intent in doing an act or omitting to do an act. Okay, so freedom, intelligence, and kasi if you committed a crime without freedom, it's just like a tool. Okay? Remember the maxim actus non in vito factus non is actus in vito factus non is meus actus, or the act done by me against my will is not my act. Okay? Intelligence. So if a person committed an act or omission punishable by RPC and he has no intelligence, like imbecile person, insane person, then they are not liable. And there must be intent. Okay, intent. So like in murder, there's intent to kill, estafa, there's intent to defraud, robbery, intent to gain. Now, sa culpa naman, or culpable felonies, ganoon pa rin, meron pa rin freedom, meron pa rin intelligence, but yung intent pinalitan. Anong pinalit dito? Imprudent, negligent, lack of foresight, or lack of skills. Okay, so lack of foresight, no? Hindi mo na-check yung brake ng motor mo or ng sasakyan mo, tapos nakasagasa ka kasi wala ka ng brake. Reckless imprudence ron. Yun. So yan yung, ang example dyan is yung reckless imprudence resulting in homicide. That's culpable. That's culpable. Now, again, may dalawang klaseng offense, no? Ito yung mala in se and mala prohibita. Ano mo itong mala in se? These are wrongful acts in their nature and so serious in their effects on society as to call for almost unanimous condemnation of each member. So, wrongful acts in their nature. So, from the very beginning, masama talaga yan. Mali talaga yan. No? And sometimes they are serious. Murder, rape, kidnapping, robbery. And society has to call for unanimous condemnation. While prohibita, these are acts which are generally made criminal or prohibited by a statute. Statute. Anong statute? Statute means law. Because of the law, like jaywalking, because of the law. Illegal possession of firearms, that's because of the law. Drugs, that's because of a law. It is not wrong per se. it is not mala in se, no? But because of law, for what? For convenience and orderly regulation of affairs of society. Another difference ng mala in se at saka prohibita, again, mala in se is generally punishable by the revised penal code. So almost all in the revised penal code are mala in se. Kasi kailangan doon ng malice at criminal intent. That's material. Material ang malice at criminal intent. But in mala prohibita, generally punishable by SPL. Ano yung SPL? Special Penal Law. Hence, malice and criminal is not material. Hindi importante yung malice at saka criminal intent. Kung naulihan ka ng firearms at wala kang license, you wanna say, no, I'm carrying firearms for my protection. Wala akong intent to kill. That is not material. So long as you carry firearms without the necessary license, you are liable under 10591 or the Comprehensive Firearms Examination Act. Now, however, there are crimes that is punishable by Republic Act but inherently immoral. And they are considered mala in se. Ano mga ito? 31.9, this is graft and corrupt practices. Inherently immoral yan, kasi corruption yan, at saka that's mala in se. 76.10, that is child abuse law. Inherently immoral yan, mala in se. Dagdag bawas during election, that is inherently immoral, mala in se. And there are crimes in revised penal code. May mga crimes sa revised penal code na considered mala prohibita. Means intent is not material. Ano yun? Brigandage. Mere forming a group of robbers, your arm, apat kayo, armado, for the purpose of committing robbery in the highway, that's brigandage. Technical malversation. Yung technical malversation, yung pera na para sa pagpatayo ng paaralan, dinivert mo sa paggawa ng daan. That's technical malversation. And that is mala prohibita. No? And position of picklocks. Now, let's discuss mistake of fact as a defense. Remember the principle, ignorance lies non excusat. No? Ignorance of the excuses no one. But mistake of fact, hindi ka liable sa mistake of fact. Sa error in persona, liable ka. Sa aberratio ictus, liable ka. Preteritention, liable ka. But in mistake of fact, you are not liable. Alam mo itong mistake of fact? The act done would have been lawful had the facts been as the accused believes him to be. Ito yung definition talaga ng mistake of fact. The act done would have been lawful had the facts been as the accused believes him to be. Okay? That intention of the accused in performing the act should be lawful and the mistake must have been without fault or carelessness. So, I'll just give you example. Ito yung kasong US versus Achong. US versus, anong nangyari dito? On August 14, 1908, tagal na to, 1908 pa, Achong, a cook, was suddenly awakened by some trying to force open the door of the room. He sat up in bed and called out twice, "Who is there?" No? Sino yan? He heard no one answer and was convinced by the noise at the door that it was being pushed open by someone bent upon forcing his way into the room. The dependent here is Achong, fearing that the intruder was a robber or theft, leaped to his feet and called out, "If you enter the room, I will kill you." Yung sabi niya, pag papasok ka, papatayin kita. At that moment, he was struck just above the knee of the edge of the chair, thought to be unlawful aggression. Akala niya may unlawful aggression, which had been placed against the door. Seizing a common kitchen knife, which he kept under his pillow, the dependent struck out wildly the intruder who, afterwards, turned out was his roommate, Pascual, who is a houseboy, and Muchacho, who is the spirit of mischief, was playing trick. So, all the while, no, ito palang, yung kumakatok sa pintuan is yung roommate niya. And he's just playing trick. No? Nagbibiro lang yung. Pero napatay niya in the process kasi akala niya magnanakaw. Is Achong criminal liable? The answer is no. Hindi. Hindi liable si Achong. Anong defense ni Achong? Mistake of fact. In the book of Attorney Gabaw, okay, ito. If the offender surprises a couple in a sexual intercourse believing the woman to be his wife, kill them, this article may be applied if mistake of fact is proved. Okay, example. Itong dalawa nagsisex sa master's bedroom. Okay? Nanghiram ng room sa mag-asawa. Pagdating ng husband, nakita niya may nag-sex. Akala niya, yung wife niya yung ka-sex, kaya napatay niya yung dalawa. Sila, it turned out to be na kapitbahay pala nila. Nanghiram na ng kwarto. Pwede bang liable yung husband? The answer is no. The husband can invoke mistake of fact. Okay, mistake of fact. Now, we have also the so-called doctrine of pro reo. Anong ibig sabihin ng doctrine of pro reo? This advocates that penal laws and laws of penal nature are to be construed, means construed is interpret and apply in a way lenient or liberal to the offender. Means lenient and liberal, favorable to the offender. Consonant to the consistent with the constitutional guarantee the accused shall be presumed innocent. No? And his guilt is established beyond reasonable doubt. So again, doctrine pro reo means a criminal law is always favorable to the accused. Always favorable to the accused. An example dyan, ito. The story, I already give you the story, no, between Pemberton and Laude, yung nagkita sila sa bar. Ito, transgender to, no? Tapos pinatay ni Pemberton. Ang kaso niya ay murder. Pero bakit Pemberton pang guilty of homicide? From murder naging homicide. Well, doctrine pro reo, pag hindi napatunayan yung murder, bababa yung kaso sa homicide. And that is doctrine pro reo. Okay? An example, yan. Former Senator Ramon Bong Revilla, not guilty of plunder in a multi-billion peso pork barrel fund scam. Actually, pero sinong guilty ito? Yung secretary niya, si Cambe, at saka si Napoles, guilty yun. Well, wala bang nanakaw na pera? Wala bang perang nawala? Meron. Pero, under doctrine of pro reo, hindi na patunayan na involved doon si Bong Revilla. Okay, kaya inacquitted siya under doctrine of pro reo. Now, when light offenses are punishable? When felonies are punishable only when they have been consummated. So, light felonies are not punishable if hindi siya consummated, attempted, or proceeded lang. With exception to those crimes against person and property. Okay, pag ang crime is person and property, kahit hindi consummated, liable. So, merong attempted, proceeded sa crimes, light offenses na crimes against person and property. Example, let's take a look at this one. No? Ito yung mga example ng light offenses. Sa crimes against person and property, slight physical injury, light lang yan, misdemeanor. Theft of small amount, light lang yan, misdemeanor. Altering boundaries landmarks, malicious mischief, light lang yan. Other crimes na light din, light coercion, okay? Intrigue against honor, ito yung chismis. Incriminating innocent person, yung binagbintangan mo isang tao na gumawa ng krimen. At trespass sa dwelling, lahat dyan ay mga light offense, punishable by arrest minor. Now, under the rule, pag light offense, it must be consummated. So, walang attempted proceeded light coercion. Walang attempted or proceeded intrigue against honor. Walang attempted or proceeded incriminating innocent person and trespass sa dwelling. Pero, exception dyan is crimes against personal property, means to say, merong attempted slight physical injury, prostrated slight physical injury. Meron yung slight attempted or proceeded theft, pero wala palang theft, no? Walang proceeded theft. Attempted theft lang meron. Altering boundaries, merong attempted, malicious, merong attempted. Okay, because they are crimes against person and property. Now, classification of felony according to gravity. So, we have grave felonies, less grave felonies, light felonies. Ang gusto ko tanahin nyo, anong mga penalty dito? Pag capital yan, grave, no? From the word grave, grave, felonies, no? Capital. Pag ang penalty ay capital, then that is grave. Pag ang penalty is maximum is correctional, anong ibig sabihin ng correctional? Prison correctional. Maximum doon is prison correctional, that's grave lang yan. Light felonies are those infraction of law with common commission of which penalty is arresto minor. So, yung mga light ay arresto minor lang yan. So, ito. Statutory rape. Ito yung kaso. Statutory rape with homicide. This is grave felony. Under 4, ginasuhan ng acts of lasciviousness. Acts of lasciviousness is punishable by prison correctional. It is less grave felonies. Frank Magalong is one ng unjust vexation. Unjust vexation. That unjust vexation is only light felonies. Okay, light felonies. Conspiracy and proposal. Ano ang ibig sabihin ng conspiracy and proposal? Conspiracy exists when two or more persons come to agreement concerning the commission of felony and decide to commit it. So, yan yung conspiracy. The keyword here is this. There are two or more persons, they are come to agreement concerning the commission of an felony. Okay, so yan yung conspiracy. And remember, in conspiracy, the act of one is the act of all. While proposal, when a person decided to commit a felony, proposes execution to some other person, then that is proposal. If I am decided to commit a crime and I propose it to other person, okay, then that's proposal. Okay, that's proposal. So, ito yung theory ng conspiracy. The act of one is the act of all. Means, even if wala ka sa crime scene, wala ka sa actual pag-commit ng crime, pero kasama ka sa conspiracy, kasama ka sa plano, then you are liable. Okay? So, in conspiracy, there is unity of purpose. Isa lang purpose nyo, and unity in the execution. Okay? Requisite. Anong requisite ng conspiracy? Two or more person comes to agreement. May agreement sila. Anong agreement yun? To commit a crime, commission of felony. And the commission of felony is decided upon. Okay? They decided to commit it. And that's called conspiracy. Now, general rule muna tayo sa conspiracy at saka sa proposal. General rule. Conspiracy is not a crime. Proposal is not a crime. So, if I propose someone to commit rape, that's not a crime. If we conspire to commit rape, that's not a crime. Okay? Kailan ba magiging crime ang conspiracy? Now, remember this. Magiging crime ng conspiracy kung may law which law specifically provides which penalty. Kung may law nag-provide for a penalty. Anong mga law, anong mga crimes yun na may that provides penalty? Remember this Chris. Anong Chris, sir? Chris is kudita, rebellion, sedition, and treason. So kung ang kaso mo ay Chris, may conspiracy ba? Are you liable by mere conspiracy? Yes. Conspiracy to commit rebellion, conspiracy to commit kudita, conspiracy to commit sedition, conspiracy to commit treason. Sa proposal naman, ito conspiracy, we're talking about conspiracy. Sa proposal naman, tatlo lang yan. Ano yung tatlo? RTC. Anong RTC yun? Treason, kudita, and rebellion lang. Okay? Or rebellion, treason, and kudita lang. So, yan yung proposal ng conspiracy. Now, implied conspiracy. Ano yung implied conspiracy? It's a well-settled rule that conspiracy need not be proved by direct evidence of prior agreement on the commission of crimes, as the same can be inferred from the conduct of accused before, during, and after the perpetration. So, ano yung ibig sabihin ng implied? Hindi mo patunayan na talagang may meeting sila kung paano gagawin ng krimen. Hindi naman kailangan patunayan yun. Kasi makikita yan sa act ng isang tao before, during, and after the perpetration of the offense. Makikita yan, no? Yan yung implied conspiracy. Now, manner of committing the felony. We have formal crimes. Anong formal crimes? Consummated in one instant, no attempt. Ano mga walang attempt? Ano mga formal crimes? Sale of marijuana, walang attempted yan. Slander, walang attempted slander. False testimony, walang attempted false testimony. Formal crimes yan. Material crimes, ito yung may 3 stages of execution. We'll discuss now material crimes later. Ano yung 3 stages of execution? Then, crimes is made by mere attempt or proposal. Like, fly to enemy country, yan. Mere attempt to fly to enemy country, that's already a crime. Corruption of minors, mere proposal to the minor to satisfy the lust of another, consummate the offense. And treason, there is no attempted stage here sa treason. And felony by omission, like yung abandonment, no? Now, stages of execution, you have attempted, you have frustrated, and consummated. So, ano ba yung consummated? Madali yung consummated. Bakit? When all the elements necessary for execution are present. Lahat ng elements sa pag-execute at pag-accomplish are present. Gusto mong patayin ng isang tao, binaril mo, napatay, then that's consummated. Walang problema. Walang masyadong problema dito. Sa frustrated, medyo meron na yung problema. When the offender, kailangan kasi sa proceeded, the offender perform all the acts of execution. Na-perform niya lahat ng acts of execution, which will produce a felony. But, the felony is not produced. The felony is not produced by reason or causes independent of the will of the perpetrator. I want you to take note, pag sinabi natin frustrated, take note of the term independent of the will of the perpetrator. Hindi ang perpetrator ang dahilan kung bakit nabuhay yung biktima. A wants to kill B. A shoot B. Then, nakita niya, natumba na si B, umalis na si A. Pero si B, nadala sa ospital, nakasurvive. Nahuli si A. Anong kaso ni A? It could be frustrated homicide or frustrated murder. Did he perform all the acts of execution? Yes. Na-produce ba niya ang felony? Na patay ba niya? Hindi. Kasi nakasurvive. But yung cause of yung pag-survive ng tao, hindi ang accusation nila kung bakit nakasurvive yung tao. Kasi ganito, if A kills B, if A shoot B, then nakonsensya si A, dinala ni A si B sa hospital at namuhay, then that is not frustrated. That is only what we call physical injury lang. Physical injury lang, no? In crimes against person, it is necessary for frustration of crime that mortal wound would be inflicted. Because it's only when that the felony could be produced as criminal. So pag crimes against person like murder, homicide, kailangan merong may mortal wound. Binaril mo siyang tao, natamaan sa vital parts, may mortal wound, pero nabuhay, then that's frustrated. Kasi pag binaril mo isang tao, the place lang yung tama, walang mortal wound, then that is not frustrated. That is only attempted. And remember this, there is no frustrated rape and there is no frustrated theft. Okay, we'll discuss that later. Ito. In People versus Akaak, sabi ng Supreme Court, there is no crime of frustrated rape. Rape is attempted lang when despite commencing the act of penetration, such is not completed due to forces other than offender's own spontaneous resistance. May hindi natuloy yung rape, no? Once there is penetration of female organ, no matter how slight, rape is deemed consummated. Walang frustrated rape. Okay, that's in People versus Akaak. Now, in Valenzuela versus People naman, sabi ng Supreme Court, there is no crime of frustrated theft. Walang crime of frustrated theft. Once there is unlawful taking, theft is consummated. Disposition of stolen goods is not element of theft under the revised code. So, hindi kailangan na benta mo yung bagay or yung ninakaw mo. Hindi kailangan na dispose mo yung item na ninakaw mo. No? The moment you take something without consent, that's consummated theft already. Okay? If you attempt to get something with intent to gain, then that's attempted, pero walang frustrated theft. Anong attempted? When the offender commences the commission of felony directly by overt act. So, ito commences pa lang. Yung si commences begin to commit an act. And does not perform all the acts of execution, hindi na perform lahat ng execution, which will produce a felony by reason of some causes or accident other than his own spontaneous resistance. Ito ang tatanan nyo sa attempted. There is what called other than his spontaneous resistance. Kasi kung may spontaneous resistance, nag-resist ka, hindi mo tinuloy yung act, yung in attempted stage, that is, you're not criminal liable. Okay? You're not criminal liable. Okay. So ito, sa attempted, there is overt acts of execution are started. Sa frustrated naman, acts of execution are finished. Dito po started, begin. Okay? But here, intended, not all acts of execution are present. Hindi na-execute lahat. But here, crime sought to be committed is not achieved. Yung crime na gusto niyang makommit ay hindi na-achieve. Hindi na-achieve. That's frustrated. Anong rason dito? Due to reason other than spontaneous resistance. Okay? Pag merong other than spontaneous resistance, anong tawag natin dyan? Attempted. Pag merong due to intervening causes independent of the will of the perpetrator, then that is frustrated. Yan yung kaibahan ng dalawa. Okay, ito. A doctor conceived the idea of killing his wife, and to carry out his plan, he mixed arsenic with soap of his victim. Immediately after the victim took the poisonous food, the offender suddenly felt such twig of conscience that he himself washed out the stomach of the victim and administered to her the adequate antidote. Okay. So dito, yung doktor, gusto niya patayin yung wife niya, pinainom niya yung poison, naawa siya. Binigyan niya ng antidote. Anong liability ng doktor? Parasite? Prostrated parasite? The answer is no. This is not prostrated parasite. Bakit? Because the consummation of crime is not independent of the will of the perpetrator. Sinong dahilan kung bakit nabuhay yung wife? Yung doktor. Yung perpetrator. So, hindi siya prostrated. Hindi rin siya attempted parasite because the doctor was already performed all the execution. Na-perform niya lahat ng acts of execution. Napainom niya ng poison. The crime committed here is physical injuries lang. Kasi may mga injury yan. Physical injury lang yan. Okay? So, ano yung indeterminate offense? It is one where the purpose of the offender in performing the act is not certain. Kaya nga siya indeterminate kasi hindi ka sure, not certain. Hindi ka sure, not certain. Its nature, relation to objective is ambiguous. Ambiguous, masyadong malabo, hindi klaro. That's ambiguity. No? Example, the act of raising a bolo and entering a store is susceptible of double interpretation. Hence, it cannot be concluded that the crime committed is attempted homicide in raising the bolo and attempted robbery for entering the house. Okay? If you raise a bolo, is it attempted homicide? No. Pag pumasok ka sa bahay, is it attempted robbery? No. Kasi hindi mo pala alam, hindi ka pa sure sa anong purpose niya. Okay? Yan ito. Yan. No? What is the crime committed here? Is this attempted robbery? Proceeded robbery? Consummate robbery? Or other crime? My answer is other crime. This could be malicious mischief. Hindi pa to considered as attempted robbery. Why? Kasi nga, hindi mo alam kung anong purpose niya. And that is what we call indeterminate offense. Indeterminate offense. The purpose is not certain or it's ambiguous. Okay, so at this point, let's have a question and answer. We'll try to answer some questions relative to what we have discussed. So one, these crimes are so serious in their nature. They affect society as to call for almost unanimous condemnation. Anong tawag ito? This is, of course, mala-inse. So serious in their nature. Mala-inse yan. Two, these are acts which generally made criminal or prohibited by statute. Law lang nag-regulate yan. For convenience and more orderly regulation of affairs of society. Set A, mala-inse. B, intentional felony. C, mala prohibita. D, culpable felony. So, of course, this is mala prohibita. Because this is prohibited by a statute or by law. Usually by Republic Act. 3. Are those crimes which the law attaches capital punishment or penalties? Pag capital punishment, is it grave felony, light felony, less grave felony, or none? Pag capital, it is grave. Okay? Kasi capital punishment, grave yan. 4. It exists when two or more person comes to agreement. So, dalawa katao, they come to agreement and decide to commit the felony or the crime. Set A, conspiracy. B, implied conspiracy. C, proposal. D, indeterminate offense. So, this is what we call conspiracy. There is an agreement and they decide to commit it. That's conspiracy. 5. It is one where the purpose of the offender is in performing the act is not certain. The key word is the purpose is not certain. It's ambiguous. Okay, not clear. Is it A, intentional felony? B, indeterminate offense? C, culpable felony? D, quasi-offenses. So this is what we call indeterminate offense. The key word here is not certain. You see, not certain, indeterminate yan. 6. When the perpetrator does not perform all the execution by reason of some causes or accident other than his own spontaneous desistance. Take note, the perpetrator did not perform all the execution. Hindi niya na-perform lahat, but he began to commit, the commission of act. And there is other than his spontaneous desistance. O, yan yung keyword natin. Is it A, consummated, B, attempted, C, prostrated, D, no crime. So this is attempted stage pa lang yan. Okay? 7. When the perpetrator perform all the execution, so ito, na-perform niya lahat ng execution, but does not produce the felony. By reason of some causes, independent of the will of perpetrator. Pag merong term na independent of the will of perpetrator, then that is prostrated. Frustrated yan. 8. As a rule, light felonies are punishable only when they have been consummated. Okay, light felonies, punishable lang kung consummated. Ano exception? Is it A, crimes against property, B, crimes against national security, C, crimes against person, or either A or C? The answer is either A or C. Crimes against property and crimes against person. 9. Which the following instances where a person cannot be held liable? A. Aer personae. B. Aberitio ictus. C. Preterite notionem. D. Mistake of fact. Hindi ka liable sa mistake of fact. Okay, sa mistake of fact. 10. An act done would have been lawful had the facts been as the accused believes him to be. Anong tawag ito? Is it A. Mistake of fact. B. Impossible crime. C. Ignorance of fact. D. Impossible crime. Okay? The act would have been lawful had the facts been as the accused believes him to be. This is mistake of fact. Mistake of fact yan. 11. A wanted to kill C. The former pointed his gun to the latter. As A pressed the trigger, the gun jumped and C managed to escape. So, hindi napatay. This is example of A. Prostrated murder. B. Consummated murder. C. Attempted murder. D. Homicide. This is only example of kasi hindi natamaan walang mortal wound. Pag walang mortal wound, it is only attempted. Hindi siya pwedeng consummated kasi hindi namatay. Prostrated, hindi rin kasi walang mortal wound. Okay? Attempted lang yan. 12. When all the elements necessary for execution and completion are present, so lahat ng elements sa pag-commit ng crime ay present, then that is consummated. Okay, consummated. 13. A stabbed B. A brought B to the hospital for medical treatment. Had it not been the timely medical attendance, B would have died. So again, kung wala pa yung timely medical attendance, namatay na sana si B. But remember, si A yung sumaksak kay B, si A pa rin yung nagdala kay B sa hospital. At dahil dinala ni A si B sa hospital, si B ay hindi namatay. The crime committed here is A. Physical injury, B. Attempted homicide, C. Consummated homicide, or D. Prostrated homicide. So, this is only physical injury. Kasi it was A, the perpetrator, who brought the victim to the hospital. 14. What is the importance of classifying felonies based on gravity of felony? Bakit classify natin grave, less grave, and light? Because A, all of this. B, is ascertains whether the suspect is detainable or not. C, it gives period that may be legally detainable, or it determines whether the case is for inquest or not. Now, lahat naman ng crime is detainable. Lahat ng crime is for inquest basta arrested without warrant. But, letter C yung tamang sagot eh. It gives period that he may be legally detainable. Kasi pag grave, 36 hours. Less grave, 18 hours. Light, 12 hours. Okay, yan yung letter C. Felonies are classified according to the manner or mode of execution into these felonies committed by means of deceit or dolo and by means of follow culpa. Which of the following cause may not give rise to culpable felonies? Alin dyan hindi culpable felony? Alin dyan hindi element ng culpable felony? And that is, of course, malice. Because malice is part ng dolo or deliberate intent or deceit. No, malice. Okay, so I think that's the last one. The last part for this video.